probably an overplayed line every time a team changes direction at quarterback, that this is the start of a whole new era. But goddamn, after a decade and a half for the Green Bay Packers of Aaron Rodgers, it really is officially the start of a new era for the Cheeseheads. You think about, I've seen some people recently posting on Twitter, and they're like in their early and mid-20s, and God, I feel old when I see that, but they will talk about how, Aaron Rodgers is all they've really known in terms of the Green Bay Packers and the quarterback position. It's like, ain't that fucked up, right? Like, that's all they've known. And for me, I've seen like 3 decades of it's Favre and then it's Rodgers. And to have that type of high-level stability at the most important position in the game for 3 decades is a damn near unprecedented run in the history of the NFL, right? So now the Packers organization, their fans, have to hope that the Jordan Love era will just be a carryover and an extension of that. Time will tell. Because heading into that 2008 season, there were certainly significant questions about what Aaron Rodgers could be as a quarterback and how he would ever possibly live up to the standard that Brett Favre set at Lambeau Field. Well, he not only met the standard, he surpassed it instead of set his own standard. And what's ironic to me is, I was wondering, like, hey, they finally traded away Aaron Rodgers, got that shit done and over with. Now maybe with Aaron Rodgers gone, it'll lead to them to kind of reassess their approach when it comes to the draft, specifically General Manager Brian Gutekunst. They're going to sit there and say, hey, now's the time to take some pass catchers and some offensive players in round 1. Ding dong, that's fucking wrong. New year, new era of Packers football, same whack-ass defensive-first approach in round 1. The Packers, since the 2012 draft, have had 12 first-round picks, including years, 2 of them where they had multiple first-round picks, mind you. And they've spent 11 of them on the defensive side of the ball. The only offensive player taken in round 1 since Derek Sherrod back in 2011 is fucking Jordan Love. And I'm sorry, Packers fans, that's fucking stupid. You can miss me with your excuses about that's the way the board fell, or that is this, or that is that, or some of these guys have worked out. No. The true definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over and over fucking again and believe the result is going to end up being any different. It's the same problem that led to disappointment at the end of Aaron Rodgers' time in Green Bay is you over-prioritize that goddamn defense. And as much as the Packers have invested for a decade in that defense in terms of premium draft pick capital, the fact that we're not talking about the Green Bay Packers as a generational defense speaks to how poor their performance has been overall. Yes, they found some good players, but certainly some of them have been underwhelming and not nearly damn good enough. So now they double down and they go Lukas Van Ness. And look, I think he was slept on a little bit in the process by kind of the more casual draft observers and NFL fans. I think he's a high upside guy, I really do, but he's raw and he's going to take time. And then you got to figure out, like, is he a better fit as a 3-4, like, I'm saying, like, is he going to be a rush linebacker? Is he going to be a standard defensive end? Is he going to be a 5 technique? Like, what are you going to do with him? Felt like LVN was a slight reach here. And frankly, if you're talking about picks in the top half of round 1, it wasn't like Lukas Van Ness played at Georgia or Alabama, one of those type of like creme de la creme, Ohio State, Michigan type of programs. He played at fucking Iowa under washed up Kirk Ferentz. He couldn't even be a full-time starter at Iowa. And you can give me whatever Iowa excuses you want around, well, they traditionally play the Badgers. Bullshit. If this guy was truly good enough, they would have found a fucking way to start him. That bump all that other shit. Period. It's kind of amazing to me that Lukas Van Ness even ended up being drafted 13th overall, considering how little he frankly was utilized at goddamn Iowa. But in terms of the day 1 grade here, I'm penalizing the Packers for the approach and the stubborn insistence on continuing to invest too goddamn much in their defense. This should have been an offensive pick of some kind. You trade back, you do something, not do the same old shit. So I gave him a D+ for day 1. They shifted tactics clearly on day 2, and for the better. If Luke Musgrave can stay healthy, he could be a really damn good NFL tight end. That's a big if, though. Like, there's always something with him, getting hurt. But if he can stay healthy, the Packers got themselves a really damn good tight end. I was a really big Jayden Reed fan. Him coming out of Michigan State, I see a dynamic slot option, got return skills and ability and experience. But at that point in round 2, to me, that was damn near 2-round reach. So, yes, I'm a little biased by my own rating, and I like the kid, but he screamed out to me day 3 talent, and they're taking him here in round 2. And I also thought it was interesting they doubled up on tight end in round 3 with Tucker Kraft. Why not maybe look at the backfield, get another option there? Why not look at the offensive line, get some depth there? Why not look at wide receiver again? It was interesting that they doubled up on tight end, although I also like Tucker Kraft. Again, this is a really good tight end class. It's interesting, the Bears didn't touch tight end once in what is a great freaking tight end class. The Bears, for my money, didn't address edge rusher once in a class that was really deep in terms of edge rusher. The Packers touched on edge rusher in round 1 and doubled up on tight ends in round 2. So the doubling up is curious. Reaching like they did for Jayden Reed, in my opinion, they reached for him a little bit. That's why I give him a grade of C+, but at least I could say on day 2, the Packers came back and they did more to address their offense and get Jordan Love, their young quarterback, some goddamn weapons, because he certainly needs them there. And then you look at day 3 for the Packers, and they had a large volume of day 3 picks, like a really large volume of them. And it's fair to question, how many of these guys are going to make it, how many of these guys are really going to contribute, but I think several of them do. If I look at this draft right now, based off of the execution, I sit there and say it's day 3 that could make this Packers draft class a pretty good one. Colby Wooden's a tweener, but he's athletic. He's high effort. I think he's a value pick for them. I was not a fan of the Clifford choice in round 5. He was not a draftable quarterback to me. I don't know why they wasted the damn pick. Dontayvion Wicks feels like a long shot to make it and to matter at wide receiver, but stranger shit has happened. Karl Brooks is somebody I looked at as an early to mid day 3 talent. He might lack the ideal measurables, but this is a guy that was just a pressure machine, a pressure factory at frickin' Bowling Green. Every time you would watch him, he was penetrating the backfield, right? This guy screams out steal potential. Anders Carlson getting drafted where he did was weird to me, because especially when you talk about kicks from distance, really inconsistent and flat out inaccurate. Was he really a draftable kicker? Was he really the guy to take that spot? And is he really going to be the one that spells the end of Mason Crosby's time in Green Bay? Weird. Carrington Valentine, the defensive back from Northwestern, I think he's more athlete than football player, but sometimes you can coach those guys up. Nichols, when you think of Nichols at Central Michigan, he was a monster in 2021. He really was. If he would have been able to play a full season in 2022, there's no way he's available for the Packers where he was in round 7. Ain't no fucking way. He would have been a round 3 to 5 type of running back. So for the Packers to get him here in round 7 as a running back 3 type of talent, that was a really good choice. As I thought Anthony Johnson Jr. was, I think he's a guy that could stick as a sub-package slot corner or safety. He screams out to me he could be a pretty big steal. And then you get to the very end, Grant DuBose, he's a receiver from Charlotte. Raw as hell. You draft and stash him on the practice squad and see what you get. But at that point in the draft, you're drafting for projectable traits and upside. So that one makes sense. But I look at day 3 for the Packers, and to me, that was the best day of the draft for this team. Talking about Wooden, talking about Brooks, talking about Nichols and Johnson. I see 4 guys that could contribute for them for sure in the future, in my opinion at least. And I gave them a B grade for day 3 because I did think this was pretty good work for them. Overall, though, I wasn't a fan of the Packers drafting yet another defensive player in the first round yet again. Bump the excuses, doesn't matter. I do like how they invested, though, in the pass-catching talent on day 2. And their high-volume approach in day 3, I think, was utilized relatively well. A couple of questionable choices mixed in there, but differing minds can have different opinions. But some potential steals in there, too, specifically Wooden and Brooks and Johnson Jr. I like their day 3, and it, to me, bumped up the overall value of their draft a little bit. Overall, I look at the Packers and I say it's an average performance to me. I thought LVN was a slight reach in round 1 and represented more of the same old shit for the Packers. They doubled down on tight ends in day 2, which I thought was interesting, and I thought reached for a wide receiver in round 2. But like the player, right? So average grade overall, strengthened and buoyed by a pretty good performance overall by Gutekunst on day 3.